Of the day, number 10.
Ngati Koata, Ngati Rarua, Ngati Tama ki te ihu, and te Atiawa o te Waka a Maui claims settlement bill, third reading.
Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Dr. Peter Sharples.
Mr. Speaker, I move that the Ngati Koata, Ngati Rarua, Ngati Tama ki te ihu, and te Atiawa o te Waka a Maui claims settlement bills be now read a third time. A haere tunu ngā mihi ki a tātou, ki a kōtau ko haramai nei, a ki te tautoko tēnei rā nui, tēnei rā whakahirahira, tēnā kōtau. Ko mihi a ngā mate waiho rātou ki a rātou ko ta mea nui tēnei wā, ko tātou, ko kōtau, e hui tahi nei. Kia whakauti ai tēnei kreme, i mua te ara o te kāwanatanga, ara te wharepare mata nei tēnei rā. Tēnā kōtau, nau mai, whakapiri mai. Mr. Speaker, whakapapa connections developed over many generations and hundreds of years bring together the families and tipuna of Ngati Koata, Ngati Rarua, Ngati Tama, and te Atiawa o te Waka Maui. Tēnā koutou, katoa koutou. I stand to acknowledge the families and tipuna of Tainui and Taranaki ki te Tonga. Four distinct iwi linked by whakapapa, by history and determination. Ko aurere te moana, ko Tainui te waka, ko hoturo te rangatira, ko Ngati Koata te iwi. Ko Tainui te waka, ko Rarua io te tangata, ko Ngati Rarua te iwi. Ko Tokomaru te waka, ko Ngati Tamariki te tangata, ko Ngati Tama te iwi. Ko Taranaki, ko piripiri ngā maunga, ko Waitohi te awa, ko Waikawa te marae, ko te Atiawa o te Waka Maui te iwi. Mr. Speaker, nearly 2 centuries ago, the peoples of Tainui and Taranaki ki te Tonga resided in Tainui, Kawhia and Taranaki lands on te Ika a Maui. Facing hardship from the 1820s onwards, Tainui and Taranaki ki te Tonga tipuna headed south. Wars were waged with the tribes throughout the bottom of the North Island and eventually across the top of the South Island. Those Tainui and Taranaki alliances and bonds remain strong to this day, as tipuna established permanent communities across te tauihu o te Waka a Maui. By the time the Chitia Waitangi was signed, Ngati Koata, Ngati Rarua, Ngati Tama, and te Atiawa o te Waka a Maui, their families exercised tino rangatiratanga over lands and resources in te tauihu o te Waka a Maui. However, we stand here today because the Crown consistently failed to protect, failed to honour, and to guarantee the legal rights of Tainui, Taranaki ki te Tonga families. For Tainui, Taranaki ki te Tonga families, back in 1840, the world was a different place to what we live in today. Te tauihu whānau were a major part of a booming economy. They helped create it and they owned much of it. Flax, wheat, potatoes, timber, maize were grown and harvested and processed on te tauihu lands by te tauihu families. They were then moved across New Zealand and shipped to Australia. The vessels that shipped them across were owned or leased by te tauihu families. This is what economic, political and cultural rangatiratanga looks like. But Mr. Speaker, when you take millions of acres off a people who have only ever known a life of enterprise and self-determination, you take more than that away, more than land. You remove a way of life, a culture and an identity. The Crown's governors and officials acted ruthlessly, sidelining the treaty of Waitangi and deliberately giving new settlers advantage over Maori. As a result, the Crown's purchasers left Te Tauihu Maori in dire poverty. Much of this has been said leading up the other settlements, but clearly it happened, and clearly it happened in Te Tauihu o te Waka. Today the Crown stands alongside those families of Tainui, Taranaki ki te Tonga, and acknowledges the social, economic and cultural devastation carried by generations of families. But through it all, Mr. Speaker, the peoples of Tainui and Taranaki ki te Tonga remained steadfast. They remained at the helm of the Waka of Maui, and they did not leave. Their identity attacked but never destroyed. They lived in poverty, but they stayed. Their way of life devastated, but never wiped out. All those things lost due to the actions of the Crown, and they can never be totally replaced. And yet, the peoples of Tainui, Taranaki ki te Tonga are here today, and they wish to settle their grievances with honour and mana with the Crown. The journey to get to this day has not been easy nor brief. And we remember those who have passed on, but whose determination has led to the legislation that this House is now considering right now. So today we witness a milestone in a journey that is taking place. Right before our eyes, we introduce legislation to resolve the historic grievances of eight tribes of Te Tauihu. Legislation that will strengthen the ability of future generations to carry on a proud legacy of economic and cultural rangatiratanga. And this is what has been the marvellous thing about settlements, is that despite the fact there's a mere pittance of what was taken away, and stuff that can never be made up, and opportunities that have been lost, despite all that, our people have taken it with two hands and made something of it going forward. And there are many instances of tribal success after settlements that we can look upon. And I wish the 8 tribes of Te Tauihu the same success as they move forward now, taking life into their own hands, remembering that once they ruled the area in the economy, owned ships that took produce across. It's a long cry from when I went to school and they called us dumb Maoris. So prior to that, we weren't so dumb. We grew the crops and we sold them and we owned the transport and everything. Now the tribes will move into that area again. So it's an honour for me to stand here and open up this discussion. I'd just like to acknowledge the iwi who have come here today. He maha o koutou whakaro, kia hoki o mahara ki a rātou kāri konei I tēnei wā. Engari ko ta mea nui kei konei koutou. Kei konei koutou me o whai atu o koutou mokopuna. Kia kaue ai te kaupapa me te mana o a koutou iwi tēnā koutou katoa. So legislation that will strengthen the ability of future generations to carry on a proud legacy of economic and cultural rangatiratanga. Ngā iwi o te tauihu o te Waka a Maui, at the helm of the great voyaging canoe of Maui, at the helm of their own destinies and future. Mr. Speaker, I commend this bill to the House.
The question is that the motion be agreed to. Mr. Reno Tirakatini.
Tēnā koe, Mr. Speaker. E aku whanaunga, Ngati Koata, Ngati Rarua,